I always thought I was pretty average. Not ugly, not stunning, just a regular girl working the morning shift at a small diner on the edge of town. I didn't grow up with people complimenting my looks. My mom was the don't draw attention to yourself type, and my dad barely noticed anything unless it involved the TV remote. So when I started dating Mark, I thought I'd won some silent competition I never even entered. He was tall, fit, the kind of guy who always had a circle of friends around him. People liked him. I liked him too at first. But it didn't take long before the little comments started. He'd pick me up from work and say things like, "You'd look better without that apron digging into your hips." Or, "Your hair's kind of frizzy today. Did you forget to brush it?" He'd laugh after almost every one, raising his hands like I was overreacting. "Relax, it's a joke. Can't you take a joke?" At first, I laughed along. I told myself he was just teasing, that couples tease each other. That was normal. But after a few months, the jokes got sharper. He'd point at girls passing by and say, "See how put together she is? You could try something like that." Or he'd poke my stomach and say, "We should hit the gym together. You could use it." Sometimes he'd do it in front of his friends, and they'd glance at me, awkward, then look away. One night, I remember we went to his cousin's birthday cookout. I wore a simple dress, nothing fancy, nothing wild. I thought I looked fine. When we walked in, his cousin's wife hugged me and said I looked cute. Before I could even say thank you, Mark went, "Yeah, she tried really hard today. She usually looks like she just rolled out of bed." Everyone laughed, even though some of them seemed uncomfortable. I felt my face burn. I stood there with a paper plate in my hand, pretending I didn't care. On the drive home, I stayed quiet. He kept talking about how fun the party was, like nothing happened. When I didn't respond, he sighed and said, "You're so sensitive. Seriously, if you can't handle a little teasing, how are you going to handle real life?" I didn't know how to answer that, so I said nothing. I stared out the window and watched the streetlights smear into long yellow trails. Over time, I started avoiding mirrors. I stopped wearing anything that showed my shape. I pulled my hair back because trying to fix it felt pointless. I didn't realize how much weight his voice had in my head until one afternoon at work, when my coworker Lucy said, "You okay? You've been so quiet lately." I almost cried right there between the pie case and the coffee machine. The moment that finally broke me happened on a Sunday afternoon. We were at his apartment, just hanging out. He was scrolling through his phone, showing me pictures of fitness models and saying how motivating they were. I didn't say anything. Then he looked at me, smirked, and said, "Imagine if you tried even half as hard. You could probably look decent." Decent. That word hit me like a punch. Something in me just snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically. It was quiet, like a thread pulling loose. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and said, "I'm going home." He rolled his eyes. "Oh, come on. Don't start. You know I'm kidding." "I'm going home," I repeated. My voice sounded strange to me, like it belonged to someone else. He didn't even get up from the couch. "Fine, be mad. You'll get over it." But I didn't. On the way home, walking because he didn't offer to drive me, I realized I wasn't just hurt. I was exhausted. I felt small, drained, like someone had been siphoning pieces of me away day by day. I didn't break up with him that night. I didn't confront him, or yell, or make some big announcement. I just went home, sat on my bed, and let myself feel everything I'd tried to ignore for months. And for the first time, I thought, I don't deserve this. Not from him, not from anyone. That thought alone felt like oxygen after holding my breath far too long. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. Usually, I'd hit snooze 3 times, then drag myself up at the last possible second and throw my hair into a messy bun. That day, I just lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying his voice in my head. "You could probably look decent." It made my stomach twist, but underneath the hurt, there was this quiet, steady feeling. I'm done. I got up. Not because of him, but because I couldn't stand feeling like a shadow anymore. I made coffee, actually ate breakfast, instead of grabbing a donut at work, and pulled on clean jeans that fit me well instead of the stretched out ones I usually wore because who cares? On my way out, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. Tired eyes, faded t-shirt, hair hanging flat. Average. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't look away. I just looked at myself and thought, okay, let's start here. Work that day was busy. The diner was full of the usual. Old guys who tipped in coins, moms with loud kids, couples who sat on the same side of the booth. Lucy watched me circle the tables and finally asked, "You sure you're okay? You seem different?" "I just decided I'm tired," I said, wiping down a table. "Tired of what?" "Feeling like crap all the time," she snorted. "Welcome to adulthood." I smiled, but inside, something clicked. I couldn't change my whole life overnight, but maybe I could change small things. After my shift, instead of going straight to Mark's place like I usually did, I walked past the bus stop and kept going. Just walked. No headphones, no plan. 20 minutes turned into 30. My legs burned a little. My head felt clearer. That became my first routine. Walk after work, even if I was tired, even if it was just 10 minutes. No one told me to. I didn't post about it. I didn't tell Mark. He noticed anyway. A week later, when he picked me up, he squinted at me and said, "You've been busy. Hard to get you on the phone these days." "I've just been walking after work," I said. "Helps me clear my head." He glanced at my sneakers. "Walking? That's your big thing? You know that's not really going to change much, right?" There it was again, that sting. But instead of shrinking, I just nodded. "Maybe not, but it makes me feel better." He shrugged like it was stupid and changed the subject to some video he'd seen. I stared out the window and let his words slide off me like water. It didn't matter if he understood. It wasn't for him. Over the next few weeks, I added other small things. I watched a couple of free workout videos online and did them in my tiny living room. At first, I could barely finish. I'd be sweating and out of breath, cursing under my breath. But when it was over, I felt proud, like I'd done something for myself. I bought a cheap bottle of drugstore shampoo that actually matched my hair type instead of grabbing whatever was on sale. I watched a video on how to trim split ends and spent an evening carefully cutting them off one by one. I started packing lunch instead of eating greasy diner leftovers every day. None of it was dramatic. I didn't suddenly transform. But little by little, my body felt stronger. My skin cleared up a bit. I slept better. Mostly, I started to feel like I was on my own side again. Mark didn't like it. One Friday night, I told him I couldn't hang out because I'd promised myself I'd cook at home and go to bed early. I expected him to shrug it off. Instead, he scoffed. "Since when are you too busy for me? You're acting like some fitness influencer or something. It's annoying." "I'm just trying to take better care of myself," I said. "That's all." He rolled his eyes. "You're still you, you know. It's not like a few walks are gonna make you hot. Don't get delusional." The old me would have laughed it off, tried to keep the peace. This version of me just went quiet. I felt that thread inside me again, the one that had snapped before. Only this time it didn't scare me. It steadied me. "Okay," I said. "I'm going home." "Seriously?" He threw his hands up. "Over that? You're unbelievable." I picked up my bag. My heart was pounding, but my voice came out calm. "No, Mark. You are." He stared at me like I'd slapped him. "Where do you think you're going?" "Home," I repeated. "And I don't think I'm coming back." The room went weirdly quiet. The TV hummed in the background. He blinked a few times, like he was trying to reset the scene. "You're breaking up with me? You?" He let out a short laugh. "You'll come crawling back in a week. Don't be dramatic." I opened the door. My hands weren't shaking. I was oddly proud of that. "No," I said. "You don't get to talk to me like that anymore." I stepped into the hallway and closed the door behind me. He didn't follow. He didn't call out my name. For once, the silence wasn't scary. It felt like freedom. Breaking up with Mark felt big that night, but the next morning, it hit me just how small my life had become around him. For the first time in a long time, my weekend was completely mine. No waiting for his texts, no wondering if I was good enough to be seen in public with him. Just open space. I went to the diner for my Saturday shift, half expecting to feel empty. Instead, I felt weirdly light. Tired, sure, but lighter. I tied on my apron, pulled my hair back, and caught my reflection in the stainless steel of the coffee machine. Same face, same body. But I looked awake. Lucy studied me while we were rolling silverware and napkins. "So," she said, "you look like you've either had a mental breakdown or did something really good." "I broke up with Mark," I said, watching her reaction. Her eyes went wide. "Finally, thank God." I blinked. "You're not even going to pretend to be sad for me?" She snorted. "Sad? I've been waiting months for you to grow a spine with that guy. He treated you like you were a project he never planned to finish." That hurt, but only because it was true. After my shift, instead of going home to lie in bed and scroll through my phone, I walked. Longer this time. I let my feet decide the route. I passed a small community center I'd never paid attention to before. There was a handwritten sign in the window. Free beginner fitness class, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 p.m. I stopped and read it 3 times. The old version of me would have thought, "That's not for you. You'll look stupid. People will stare." This version of me was tired of letting that voice run my life. I pulled out my phone, took a picture of the sign, and told myself, "You're going." So I did. The first class was brutal. A woman named Carla led it. She was maybe in her 40s, with strong arms and a kind face that didn't do fake compliments. The room was full of regular people: a tired mom, an older guy in sweatpants, a college kid who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I stumbled through half the movements. My legs shook. My face was bright red. At one point, I almost walked out, but Carla clapped her hands and said, "Nobody quits. We modify. You hear me? We don't quit on ourselves here." For some reason, that hit me harder than all of Mark's criticism ever had. Someone finally talking about effort without tearing me down. I kept going. Twice a week, every week. I didn't tell anyone. I just showed up, gasped my way through it, and went home sore and proud. Between classes, I stuck with my walks and tried to eat like someone who didn't hate herself. Over the next few months, my body started to change in quiet ways. My jeans fit differently. My face looked less puffy. But the biggest change was how I stood. My shoulders didn't curl in as much. When people talked to me, I met their eyes instead of staring at the floor. One Thursday, a guy walked into class late, holding his hands up in apology. He wore worn work boots and a gray t-shirt with grease stains on it. Short dark hair, scruffy jaw, strong arms. He looked like he'd come straight from a long shift. "Sorry," he said, a little out of breath. "Got stuck at the shop." "That's what happens when you fix everyone's car in town, huh?" Carla said. "Grab a mat, Ethan." Ethan. I'd seen him once or twice bringing his truck through the diner drive-thru, but we'd never really talked. Now he rolled out a mat a couple spots away from me and joined in like he'd been doing this for years. After class, I was wiping down a mat when he walked over. "You're good," he said, nodding at me. I laughed, actually laughed. "You must have been looking at someone else. I almost fell on my face during those lunges." "Yeah, but you kept going." He shrugged. "Most people don't. I'm Ethan, by the way." "I know," I blurted, then immediately wanted to crawl under a table. "I mean, Carla said your name. I'm Emma." "Right. Emma from the diner?" he asked. "You gave my little sister extra whipped cream on her hot chocolate last winter. She still talks about it." I remembered her suddenly, tiny, gap-toothed, shy. She was cute. It was nothing. "Wasn't nothing to her," he said. "She'd had a bad day. That helped." The way he said it, simple and sincere, made something warm uncurl in my chest. He wasn't looking at me like I was a project. He wasn't scanning my body, silently scoring it. He was just talking to me. We started chatting after class each week. Small things at first. How his day at the shop went, how my shift at the diner was, whether Carla was secretly trying to kill us with squats. He never commented on my body. He complimented my effort, my sense of humor, the way I remembered tiny details. One night, as we walked out of the community center, he said, "You want to grab something to eat? There's that taco place down the street." My first instinct was to panic. Date? With him? Then I caught myself. I wasn't the same girl who'd let Mark decide her worth. I took a breath. "Yeah," I said. "I'd like that." Sitting across from Ethan in that tiny taco shop, I realized how low my bar had been. He asked about my life and actually listened. When I told him about Mark, not in detail but enough, he frowned. "Someone talks to you like that?" he said, shaking his head. "That's not teasing. That's just mean." There was no ego in his voice. No, "I'd never do that because I'm a good guy." He just said it like a fact. We started seeing each other more. Walks after class turned into coffee before my shift, which turned into him picking me up from work sometimes with a to-go box of food he'd made because you probably didn't eat anything decent today and you deserve more than half-cold fries. Months passed. I kept working on myself. Not for him, not for anyone. For me. I changed my hair, bought a couple of dresses that actually fit my shape, learned how to do basic makeup that made me feel polished without hiding my face. One afternoon, I was wiping down a table by the front windows of the diner when I caught my reflection in the glass. Stronger arms, clearer skin, softer eyes that still looked like mine, just sure. For the first time in my life, I looked at myself and thought, I like her. That was the version of me Mark was about to see. It happened on a Wednesday. The diner was in that weird mid-afternoon lull, too late for lunch, too early for dinner. I was refilling ketchup bottles, humming along to some old song on the radio, when I heard the bell over the door. "Table for one," a familiar voice said. My stomach dropped, then went very, very still. I turned around. Mark stood there, hands in his pockets, sunglasses pushed up on his head. Same cocky posture, but something was different. He looked tired, a little softer around the middle. His eyes flicked over the room, bored, until they landed on me. For a second, he didn't recognize me. I was in my uniform, sure, but my hair was cut into soft layers and actually styled. My makeup was simple but clean. My posture was straight. I wasn't hiding in my own skin. I felt that even before I saw his face change. His eyebrows shot up. "Emma?" "Hey," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Just you today?" He blinked, clearly thrown off by how calm I sounded. Yeah, just me." I grabbed a menu and led him to a booth. I could feel his eyes on me the whole time, scanning, calculating, trying to fit this version of me into the box he'd kept in his head. "So," he said as he slid into the booth, "you look different." I wrote it down in my mental notebook. Different. Not for me. Not to impress him. Just a fact. "I'll grab you a water," I said instead of answering. In the server station, Lucy hissed, "Is that—" "Yep," I said. "You okay?" "I'm fine." And I was. My hands weren't shaking. My heart was beating faster, sure, but not from fear. More like a strange curiosity. I'd changed so much inside my own life that I'd almost forgotten he still existed in it somewhere. I brought his water over. He leaned back, giving me that once-over he always used to do. "Seriously," he said. "You've— Wow, you've really put in some effort, huh?" "I guess so," I said. "You ready to order?" He ignored the menu. "You've lost weight. And your hair? Did you go to some fancy salon or something?" "No," I said. "Just learned how to take care of it." He gave a low whistle. "Damn. If you'd looked like this when we were together." There it was. The sentence hung in the air, unfinished. but I knew exactly how it ended. If you'd looked like this then, I would have treated you better, paid more attention, shown you off. Something in me hardened, not in a bitter way, more like firm ground after a storm. I like how I look now, I said simply. What can I get you, Mark? He finally ordered a burger, though I don't think he tasted it. Every time I passed his table, his eyes followed me. When I laughed with a regular, when I joked with Lucy, when I carried a heavy tray without wobbling. He was taking it all in like he was seeing me for the first time. When he finished eating, I dropped off his check. He didn't grab it. So, he said, leaning forward, how have you been? I've been meaning to text. You did text, I reminded him. A few months ago, and I didn't answer. He frowned. I mean, properly. Talk. We left things weird. No, I said. We left things honest. He shifted, obviously not used to me pushing back without raising my voice. Look, I know I was hard on you sometimes. I was just trying to motivate you, and clearly it worked. He gestured at me like I was a before and after picture. You look amazing, Em. We were good together. We could be good again. There it was. The offer. The assumption that now that I matched his idea of decent, or whatever word he'd use, I'd be grateful for his attention. I opened my mouth to answer, and the bell over the door rang again. Hey, superstar, a warm voice said. Thought I'd catch you on your break. Ethan. He walked in, still in his work boots, shirt flecked with grease, holding a Togo coffee from the place down the street. His smile was easy and familiar, the kind that reached his eyes first. He headed straight for me and kissed my cheek, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I saw Mark's face out of the corner of my eye. His expression went from confident to confused to something almost like panic. Mark said. Who's this? I turned slightly, not stepping away from Ethan. This is Ethan, my boyfriend. The words settled between us, sweet and solid. Ethan, being the kind of person he is, held out his hand. Hey man, I'm Ethan. Mark shook it automatically, eyes darting between us. Boyfriend, huh? Since when? Couple months, I said. Feels longer. Ethan grinned at me, then looked at Mark again. She's pretty great, he said, like he was just stating a fact. I'm lucky. The thing is, there was no showboating in his voice, no subtle brag. He wasn't trying to rub anything in. He genuinely meant it. I watched the realization hit Mark. He'd always acted like he was doing me a favor by dating me. Now he was looking at a man who saw me as something to be grateful for. Mark cleared his throat. Well, that's nice. I took a breath. This was my moment. I knew it. Not to scream, not to humiliate him, just to finally say what needed to be said. Mark, I said, keeping my tone even, you asked how I've been. I'm good, really good. And no, it's not because your motivation worked. It's because I stopped believing the way you spoke to me was normal. His jaw tightened. I was joking. You know I was joking. Maybe you thought you were, I said. But the effect was the same. I felt small all the time. I don't feel that way anymore. He opened his mouth, probably to argue, but I held up a hand. I'm not angry, I said. I'm not here to fight. I'm just done with how you talked to me, with how you made me feel like I had to earn basic respect by changing myself. You don't get access to this version of me. The words came easier than I expected. They'd been sitting at the edge of my tongue for months. For once, he didn't have a quick comeback. He just stared at me, really stared, seeing not just the hair and the clothes and the body, but the line he couldn't cross anymore. Ethan squeezed my shoulder gently. You okay? He murmured. I'm good, I said, and I meant it. Mark finally looked away, down at his empty plate. Guess I messed up, he said quietly. Yeah, I answered. You did? There was no satisfaction in saying it, just truth, simple and clean. He paid and left without another word. I watched him walk to his car, shoulders a little hunched, and felt nothing sharp. just a distant, faded ache for the version of me who once thought his opinion was everything. When my shift ended, Ethan was waiting outside. The evening air was cool, smelling like rain and exhaust and fried food. He took my hand as we started walking. "You sure you're okay?" he asked again. I looked up at him, at his tired eyes and soft smile, at the way he held my hand like it was something important. "I am," I said. "For the first time in a long time, I really am." He kissed my forehead. We kept walking. That's my revenge story, I guess. No screaming, no public scene, no grand gesture. Just me becoming someone I'm proud to be, with a man who sees my worth even on the days I don't. The best part? The revenge wasn't really for him. It was for me.